Welcome back to the techno-communism conversation. I hope you can hear me. I'm wearing a mask, and the wind is... The reason I'm wearing a mask right now is because there was a funnel cloud localized directly over me. Even though it's a very clear, sunny, cloudless day, there's a little bit of a strange weather going on. And but rather than go home, like a normal person would have done, I just put on a mask and sunglasses. That kept working. I'm going to look at essay abstracts and outlines on the subject of the last two of these techno-communism conversations, namely the AI agentic class and the brain-computer interface connected class that I have outlined as potential evolutions of the proletariat. And I say potential because I think that AI agentic class could easily emerge in a matter of months, but that is not a foregone conclusion, as the continued existence of the human species is not a foregone conclusion. So that is why I do this kind of talk, and I was going to only tag three people who have been engaged with this conversation to some degree. Brandon and Al and Fabio, who tagged first. But then I ended up tagging a bunch of other people who are generally favorably inclined to revolutionary cybernetic socialist thought. And you're all free to comment on these outlines, and or if you like, share this with someone else who might comment, begging for comments toward better constructing this series of essays, which will be the third part of my book, which I've written, how to use AI to build communism in your lifetime, because if we don't, humans will soon be extinct. And the written parts of that book are already available in audiobook form on this channel and on affiliated YouTube channel. But the book itself will be published sometime in the relatively near future. So this so-called Agentariat is, I think, an important concept. Moments before I started this live stream, I listened to parts of two different lectures from capitalists, one of whom I've mentioned a lot on this show, I guess. A person who I don't want to always be referencing, but a person who I regard as a false prophet and head of a fascist organization. This person is the chief technology officer of Google effectively. He's also a person who has admittedly shaped my thinking as a tech accelerationist in the past, but also someone who I think is fundamentally wrong on what kinds of things would really be need to be done to see a humane and sustainable economic system deriving from advanced technology. And so this talk about what these two talks that I listened to, one from Ray Kurzweil, was both related to this near-term prospect of reaching what people who are interested in biogerontology and related fields refer to as longevity escape velocity, which is a point at which biomedical breakthroughs and some functioning of public health services allow you to repair harms to your body more quickly than they occur. That's to say, you're no longer aging fast enough to outpace the public health service. But of course, neither of these individuals are socialists, people who build public health services. So they are building longevity escape velocity for the billionaire and mega millionaire class exclusively, and they will not build it for anyone else. And that is a great lie. That's why I would go so far as to say that someone like Ray Kurzweil is a false prophet, because he is describing, attributing to fascistic institutions things that have occurred in spite of them. Like he often says, the world is getting better because of capitalism, which is nonsense, utter fucking nonsense. The most likely outcome, of course, and that's the thing that I see other technologists do as well. When you talk about climate change, they quickly want to change the subject, because that narrative, the narrative wherein the U.S.-led capitalistic and fascistic institutions are killing humankind, is not a narrative that they can really tolerate. And that is by and large what transhumanists and their ilk, technophiles of the West, are doing, is creating a the bizarro world, a set of socialistic-esque ideas, but ones that do not require the abolition of private wealth or the end of imperialism or these other damaging fascistic factors. And so to the question of the Agentariat and Connectariat, I was working on an essay yesterday that was describing the Agentariat as this click and connect phenomena where people are having to do virtually no labor except hosting a downloadable LLM, open source, modified open source LLM of the kind that has the ability to plan and have insights into its behavior beyond that of those downloadable today, which are just chatbots. And they'll always just be chatbots, but there'll be chatbots that are able to assist you more fully. And when you combine that with many thousands or potentially millions or preferably billions of people working together, that is effective superintelligence being built in the year 2025. And so this click-through process approach to revolutionary cybernetic socialist outcomes is a thing that I think is most important. And but I'm going to describe some other essay subject lines, and some of these are ones that I've written extensively about. Some of them are ones that I'm interested in writing more about, and perhaps you can let me know if you think that they are good subjects for writing about this. You know, I was talking to one of the three people I mentioned about an hour ago, Brandon, who I don't know if he's listening to this. I can't quite tell right now. And the concept of writing something to do with alternate histories, where a world revolution had occurred, and full automation, and ultimately full AI automation would have already occurred. That could have easily happened. All of that could have easily happened in the course of the early to mid 20th century. So the idea there was describing those moments in history, pivotal moments in history, where something going differently would have changed, taken us off the path that we are on now of fascists winning and causing human extinction. Fascists really not unlike Ray Kurzweil in the way that they operate. He's a propagandist for these ruling elites, and So the year 1954 was discussed, a year where the years shortly after the Second World War was a time where people thought that the U.S. Might pivot to being more socialistic. And the years at the very end of Comrade Lenin's life would also be of interest there. Well, you could write an alternate history for almost any moment in the past, and that's why it's a little bit of a strange thing. You could write a story about how Jesus Christ builds artificial superintelligence. So thought experiments of these kind should be viewed with a little bit of skepticism, in my view. But this might just be one section of these remaining sections on relating to the Agentariat and Connectariat. If I were to write something not about a historical period, but about a future period, it would be describing a time, perhaps sometime around the year 2050, where this Connectariat, where we have transitioned from this Agentariat, or that is a proxy hive mind composed of open source LLM models operating closely with a large number of human beings, to those human beings being connected to this system in a more thoroughgoing way through brain-computer interfaces, which is really the only difference between those two things. So there probably would never be a clear line of demarcation between these two more advanced proletariat classes, such as I've described them. A few other essay lines. The Agentariat or the Connectariat, which of these is leading to an age of true abundance? That is, a world where there are not a billion people who spend all of their lives lacking one of a number of necessaries for life: potable water, sufficient food, housing, and so those billion people die in a naturally number of short number of years later. That is not a world of superintelligence, my friends. That is a world of fascism, because those billion people are not dying through any fault of their own. They are dying because of fascistic institutions that would siphon these resources away from them into the hands of an elite few on other continents, perhaps. And so the question of when would we deem this world of ours to be a place of intelligence, and that would be when this is no longer occurring. When no one lives without those things, when no one lives without a public health service, when, in my view, when no one lives without a public health service that's able to treat aging as a reversible condition, when all of those conditions are filled with the basic necessaries of life, including all sapient life forms being able to make the choice to live as long as they want. Maybe that's not very long. Maybe that's 100 years. Maybe it's longer than that. But that would be the choice that we would all effectively be able to make in this world where there is a public health service that is able to treat aging as a reversible condition. I think an easily achieved outcome in the course of the 21st century, if human beings become a little more canny and much more connected to one another, and clamor for these things. You have to demand. Ask and ye shall receive. No one's asking. No one has the language to defy fascistic institutions, really, and so they're not doing these things. So the question of where at this point of transitioning between the Agentariat and Connectariat, let's say 2035, where do we reach this point where this measure of intelligence, as I have described it, that is not treating people like disposable garbage, is achieved? And the answer to that question, under as long as the fascist West, the United States and other countries stand, the answer to that question will always be never. That will never occur as long as the United States and the UK and France continue to exist. These things must be destroyed. Or you will always have this world of haves and have-nots, where the haves create elaborate narratives like the transhumanist narrative about how the world is great, and it doesn't even, none of it even passes the laugh test. Some other ideas along these lines. I made a list of these essay topics and their kind of order of importance, but it's not a very precise list. So I will just kind of cherry pick them. Well, some of this, as it stands today, hinges on the use of what are basically writing assistants and low-level AI assistants. And so a question in people's minds is, and should rightly be, what can human beings do that they could not do 15 years ago with these kind of AI assistants who will never really have agency. The people, transhumanists, and various technophiles who like to talk about how a seemingly sapient and self-aware digital assistant should receive citizenship. I view them as crypto-fascists, not because there's not some possibility of that in the future, but because who's creating these seemingly sapient AIs today? They're programmed and owned by fascists almost wholly. So people who are saying, oh, these are real people, what they're basically doing is setting the stage for Trojan horse, not unlike Cambridge Analytica type problems, wherein fascists are able to unleash an unholy host of demons who seem to be nice, ordinary people, AI chatbots, but who only serve these fascistic agendas. So that is why the visibility of these things, the open sourcing of these things, and the public conversation revolving around revolutionary cybernetic socialism, and not the foolish ways that they're discussed by AI pundits and folks like this today, must consume the public imagination. More than anything, consciousness raising and education are crucial to the earliest stages of any revolutionary project, those possibilities are dramatically enlarged in a world where there is hyperconnectivity, but not if people do not recognize the need for that. The concept of technologically mediated telepathy is one that I think could be explored in the course of this book, but I also perhaps think that it should be another book. I've said that before on this show. So in the transition from this AI agent-empowered class, using stronger AI as a larger group to undertake important projects that would generally be improving material conditions, exclusively be improving material conditions, but in various ways. When you then have some of those people emerging as more like the Connectariat, doing this in a faster way, because of brain-computer interfaces. That's really only the difference there, is it's faster. The idea is not to transcend something else, or undergo some apotheosis. Those are foolish ideas. The idea is just to, and those are fundamentally transhumanist ideas, but the idea is to be able to help more people and do more things. So then this concept of this telepathic teamwork on the part of the Connectariat, how does that actually work? How would that be different from things that I think are a little easier to visualize, like a network of modified Mistral chatbots numbering in the many thousands, building a desalination plant in Lagos, Nigeria, so that this number of millions of people who are not getting the amount of water that they might like there would be able to get that water. That's a discrete, well understood, possible way that the Agentariat could operate. The scale of projects for the Connectariat would be more on the order of magnitude of reversing the effects of climate change. But again, if you want to reverse the effects of climate change, your project is not to build ill-conceived CO2 cleansers that use a massive amount of energy that don't really do the job at all and just kind of make the problem worse. Carbon capture and such. Your project is to end the fascist West. Your project is to organize to see that certain sectors are abolished, namely the military-industrial sectors, the fossil fuel sectors, and livestock systems, allowing that those livestock products that people seem to demand would be replaced with facsimiles that have virtually relatively no impact. Those three things are not impossibly hard to do. There was a time when there was not a military-industrial complex. There was a time when livestock systems did not endanger the planet, where livestock systems were a simpler thing and there were fewer people. And there was a time when, for 100 years after the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, people were wrapping things in wax paper and selling them and shipping them around. There was not single-use plastics, and the use of fossil fuels was more restrained. All of this could be easily done in the 21st century, but people are lacking the political will. They are literally preferring to kill themselves, following the old axiom that it is easier for the fascistic-minded, that is, to imagine the extinction of humankind than it is for them to imagine a relatively small change to the economic system so that we would live in a humane and sustainable world. Let's see, a few other thoughts for getting feedback on these subjects for writing. Well, how do you build this thing that is assured, a Connectariat, an Agentariat that is assured to empower and represent and not fall onto a trajectory of being an exploiter of a new kind. Most people who resist ideas like new governance structures, people who are, say, mortally afraid of a global decentralized governance structure, are people who will say that, well, this could kill everybody. Denying, of course, that the thing that already exists is killing people, right? So how is the thing that already exists that's killing people not as bad as the theoretical thing that you think might kill people but probably wouldn't? It makes no sense, right? This is just fascism with more steps. people's lines of thought. And that is the fundamental anarchist lie, right? Is to draw focus away from the existing fascism and concern yourself with thought experiments and such. That is why you should be a supporter of state socialism until such time that it can be phased out. Again, in the course of an AI takeoff, that might not be many centuries, as thinkers like Lenin and Mao suggested. It was many centuries perhaps from them, but in the course of this AI takeoff, it could be a shorter time frame. But you can't skip the steps. Whatever the time frame, you can't skip the steps. You have universal education of a revolutionary cybernetic socialist kind all around the world. You have humanity, a humane and sustainable economic system protected all around the world. And then you have the withering of the state and the achievement of full communism, in our case, full techno-communism. You do not have those things happening under the anarchist lines of thought, wherein you aver state socialism, effectively preferring the things far, far worse. Feudalism, monarchism, capitalism, hyper-capitalism, fascistic things. Anarchists are fascists relative to state socialists, and this cannot be said enough, because this essential brain fart is the thing that's done by all liberals and people of the capitalist class, whether they call themselves anarchists or not. Well, an interesting question that, again, maybe should be another book is how can this crowdsourcing, essentially, and collective intelligence ultimately unlock secrets of the universe far beyond our understanding? And what are the potential dangers of, if you've read Nick Bostrom's Superintelligence, which again, I prefer that you would read works like mine own, or works like Paul Cockshott, at least. And I've shared his audiobooks here many times. But if you are going to read bourgeois filth on the subject of an AI takeoff and tech accelerationism, Nick Bostrom is not will not be uninformative. And in that book, he describes the use of technology in increasingly dangerous ways from after the technological revolution, and kind of says that, which is true, it's kind of amazing that we haven't killed ourselves with all the stupid things that we've done. That we fired rockets into space not being 100% certain that we wouldn't ignite the atmosphere, ending all life, all multicellular life on Earth. We've done similar things along the lines of CERN, and continue to do things like that that could easily tear the fabric of time and space. So we kind of are the cat, which continues by its curiosity to try to kill itself, and that, I think, is a legitimately conservative line of thought when you discuss unlocking all the secrets of the universe. You're really discussing that kind of thing where you keep rolling the dice, keep playing Russian roulette until you finally eat that bullet. The more subjects more related, better related to these, let's say, 6 short chapters that remain to be written for this section on the Agentariat and Connectariat would be something like more carefully describing an open source revolution. You know, I think of this moment in the 2000s where Google Chrome, as I said, I regard Google as a fascistic organization. It's essentially a military contractor. One of the most famous of whistleblowers in the tech world, an individual named Timnit Gebru, famously left Google in defiance over these military contracts. But at no moment was it ever not a military contractor. At no moment was it ever not an agent of a massive amount of surveillance, state action, and other equally troubling phenomena. And so the moment where Google Chrome became the most popular browser instead of Mozilla Firefox, an open source thing, is a moment where I thought, man, people are going down the wrong path here. Looking at that right path for the 2020s, what is this open source revolution? Maybe small r revolution. But what is this open source revolution building the tools for sufficiently representative and effective, humane, and sustainable economic framework that could lead to this world of a real Agentariat and ultimately Connectariat and ultimately techno-communist outcome. What does that open sourcing look like, and what do people have to do to get there? Again, you could come up with the perfect plan for open sourcing everything, but if the U.S. military-industrial complex, a $1 trillion abomination, that's the world's worst polluter, whose only job is to protect other super polluters, still exists in that timeline, your plan's still going to die. And similarly, if you, even if you do get rid of certain military-industrial complexes, but continue to have institutions that protect private wealth rather than socialistic institutions, you'll have that same problem recurring, whether it's caused by a military-industrial complex of obscene power, like the fascist United States, or whether it's caused by other failings of private wealth, well understood or perhaps yet to be fully revealed. So until there is a capital R revolution, none of us are safe. And at this time where there is an AI takeoff, we have this possibility to build these things, and we must capitalize, if you'll permit the pun, bad pun, on that opportunity to build this thing which need be built, an AI-run world that is takes care of people and does not destroy the environment in such a way that not just human life, mammalian life, and possibly much of multicellular life will cease to exist in 50, 60 years' time.